goes. It's a C-Mac attack. McCaffrey, one man defeat.
This is Desmond Johnson on the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast, here on the Bleav Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network for professionals. Do you believe? If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate the show on iTunes. We're available in your favorite directories: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Luminary, and TuneIn. You can also find us at Bleav.com and at Bleav Podcast on Twitter. And welcome back into a brand new edition of the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast. I am your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by my co-host from Sports Illustrated, Schuyler Callihan. It is draft week, so we brought in a guest, Zach Petrov from the NFL Draft Bible. He's going to help us out with a mock draft. Don't know how far we'll get, at least probably the top 10 at least, so we can at least get to the Panthers. We'll discuss all the different scenarios that the Panthers could pull off here. We were just joking off camera. They could do literally anything at this point, and last year is a perfect example of them doing something unorthodox compared to what they actually need. So we've been spending the past 2 months, Schuyler, talking about left tackles and quarterbacks and trading down, and they may end up, going and getting Sauce Gardner. We have no idea. So we literally, they've kept their cards close to the vest. We'll talk about that. Of course, last week, if you missed it, we had our debate for and against Baker Mayfield. Those rumors have not died down. In fact, if anything, the Panthers have kind of held those cards close to the vest as well and shut that down earlier this week, saying that they would not entertain any trades for Baker or anyone until after the first round was completed. So if that tells you a little bit about where the Panthers might be heading here, that might be a good indicator. We'll get into our mock draft. Zach is going to help us through our crazy here, and we'll see if we're close to this when the draft starts later this week. Before we get into that, though, we need to give a quick word to one of our sponsors at Bet Online. Our partners at Bet Online continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. Don't forget that the MLB is back as well. Who are you picking to win the World Series? Bet Online is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started. Just head over to their website today and use your mobile device to join, and use our promo code, that's Bleav, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That is Bet Online, where the game starts. As I bring in my co-host, Schuyler Callihan from Sports Illustrated, just to start off before we get into this mock and bring in Zach, Schuyler, any last guesses here, or do you want to just wait till we get to the Panthers pick in the mock to kind of go? Because I know we've been doing your mock draft for the Panthers pick the past couple of Tuesdays, but we've kind of settled on Malik Willis or a left tackle of some sort, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where my head's thinking. I mean, again, everyone that I've talked to has no idea what's going to happen. It seems like quarterback or offensive tackle. If I had to pick one or the other, I would probably lean to the offensive tackle, just because I think there's more security there with that pick. And I don't think that there's a for sure guy. Even Malik Willis, I don't know if there's 100% guarantee that he's going to become the player that he thinks. So I'll wait to get into deeper analysis on it, but I want to say it's going to be probably between one of those two positions.
And then Zach, coming in from the NFL Draft Bible, here's the question that's kind of been floated out there when it comes to Baker Mayfield. Is Baker Mayfield better than the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in this draft class? Like, would you take him if he was coming out this year as opposed to Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett?
Yeah, in my opinion, I'm a big Pickett fan. I think Pickett's a really solid quarterback. I think he would fit well with Matt Rule. But Baker Mayfield, I think, is a much better option. So if you're looking to decide between Baker or Pickett or Willis or any other quarterback, I would lean Baker.
See, that seems like the logical move, but again, we're talking about the Carolina Panthers, so we don't really know if that's their plan in house. I think my fear is that they're going to draft Kenny Pickett at 6. There's something about getting him that high that just really frightens me. It really does. So I'm not sure, but you seem pretty comfortable with them taking him at 6, right? Or are you thinking they would have to maybe trade down?
For the Panthers, I don't know if you'd have to trade down. I think 6. I mean, if you trade down, I think you're still looking at possibly Seattle taking them, unless they like Willis more, which I know everyone thinks, Russell Wilson, Malik Willis, it might be a good, go from one to the other. But with Kenny Pickett, I mean, he was recruited by Matt Rule at Temple quite a bit. So there's a connection there. If they can't find a suitable trade partner, I just don't know who's going to come up to get what. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think Pittsburgh's coming up from 20. I don't think the Saints are going to come up. Maybe they do. Maybe they package both their picks. I don't know. But I don't really see a guy or a team coming up to get one of these guys. I just don't see the value in it. I don't think the talent level is there for someone to go up and get them. So I think they're going to be sitting tight at 6 thinking, okay, like you guys were talking about earlier, do you take your tackle? Do you take your quarterback? I mean, I got a feeling it's going to be Pickett, man. I got a feeling.
Unfortunately, I do too, and I think we both feel differently about that.
I mean, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. You know, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm lukewarm on it.
And for like a top 10 pick, I feel like I should love it. Like, you know, like it should be like a franchise-changing starter day one type of thing. And like, I feel like Kenny Pickett just ain't it. Joining us from the Bleav family, Will McFadden. He is the host of Bleav and Falcons. I wanted to have somebody in from our neighborhood, from the NFC South, to chime in because if I'm not mistaken, Will, your Falcons are choosing 8th in this draft. So we will. I'm looking at our PFF mock draft simulator, and I see that there's no 7th pick on here. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. Hold on, let me pull it up here because what we decided to do today was to basically do a mock draft where we'll all sit down and kind of decide who should go where, and then we'll kind of look at it. We'll just see how far we go. But am I tripping? I'm looking at this and I don't see a 7th pick. It goes 5, 6, 8.
It should be the Giants, right?
Right. Yeah. What?
Try going to the Draft Network. Usually they're pretty reliable.
Okay. What's the?
That's the one I use every now and then.
So we're doing real life Googling here. The Draft Network.
They had the Vikings.
I want a Pro Football Network. Draft Network. Okay, there we go. Draft machine. And I'm glad I noticed it because we would have got all the way through it and be like, hey, wait a minute, where's the 7th pick here?
10 and 13 is just like every 3 picks. You select all.
Now this one is making it where you pick a team and you go through their picks.
You can hit select all at the top and then it'll. There we go. Next. And
all right. So select the big board you like to use. We're going with the predictive board. Is that right? Number of rounds.
Yep.
Pick speed, normal. Everything looks good there. All right. So we are on the Draft Network here, and we'll just go ahead and kick some things off here. Jacksonville on the clock, pick 1. Team needs pretty much everything. Other than quarterback, they pretty much need everything. So pretty much best player available. I've been seeing Trayvon Walker's name inch up this draft board the past week or so. Starting off with you, Schuyler, are you surprised that Trayvon Walker is seemingly passing Hutchinson from Michigan? Because it felt like he was like the de facto number 1 for the longest. And now, as we get to draft week, it doesn't seem so sure anymore.
It's not a surprise. I mean, when you watch the tape, I mean, the dude's just an athletic freak. I mean, the stats aren't really there as a pass rusher. He didn't have a great, pass rushing production. But when you flip on the tape and you see the athletic freak that he is, the raw strength that he has, and just the potential that he can be at the next level. Like some of these guys, they're going to get double teamed in college. They're going to get chipped with tight ends all the time. Like you're not going to have that production at maybe Georgia. But I think I still want to lean towards Aiden Hutchinson here just because I feel like that's probably the most – I don't know. I'm outside of the box here. Like I could see it going Trayvon Walker. I could see him going Kayvon Thibodeau. I think they could surprise everybody and take Ike Ekwonu. Like they could go in a lot of different directions here. I guess I'll lean towards Aiden Hutchinson for now.
We'll save the expert opinion of Zach here at the end, and then I'm just kind of in the back of the truck bed here. Will, where are you leaning for Jacksonville at pick number 1?
Yeah, I think I kind of feel the same way. And I'm just trying to think back because this is always the week where it's kind of a smokescreen season. You start getting all these reports. It seems like information is out there left and right. And then I always find it interesting when you kind of get on the flip side of this week, you look back and it's like, well, actually the information that we had kind of at the end of the season and around the Senior Bowl, kind of before everything starts changing at the combine and then the pro days and the coaches get involved and all of that stuff. And Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, has for the longest time kind of kept popping back up as that number one pick. And I look at Kayvon Thibodeau, and he would usually fit the bill of that kind of athletic freak that would climb up draft boards late in the process. The issue is he started as kind of the consensus number one pick. So a lot of people were nitpicking him, kind of faulting him, I think, during this process, which led Aiden Hutchinson to be there. But now you've got Trayvon Walker as kind of this rising dark horse candidate because people have been so wowed by his athletic gifts. I'm a Georgia fan, so I've watched Trayvon Walker play in this. I think he's got much more pro potential than what we saw production-wise at Georgia because of just the level of talent that Georgia had, kind of what they asked all of these uber talented guys to do, and the rotations that they had. So I think Jacksonville is probably going to stick here with Aiden Hutchinson just because I think that that's the connection that has been made for the longest time. If there is one team, though, that would probably, actually, frankly, like the 3 or 4 or 5 teams that would probably pull off a move like Trayvon Walker and buying into the hype are the first 5 teams in this draft. So I wouldn't be shocked if Jacksonville does something, but I'm going to stick with Aiden Hutchinson here as well.
Zach?
Yeah, I think
sounds like that might be the move.
Yeah, you guys said a lot of good stuff there. Talking about the athleticism of Trayvon Walker. I mean, he's uber athletic, and from what I'm hearing, like they're considering it. But Aiden Hutchinson's, it sounds like that's going to be the pick from what I'm hearing. Schuyler, you talked about offensive line. I don't think they address offensive line right away just because of what they did in the offseason. And with the depth of this tackle class, I think they can do that later. So I would say Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau is such a beast, man. I think he's a fantastic player. I mean, this guy should be going number one. But from everything that I've been hearing, it's Aiden Hutchinson or a trade, which, as I said earlier in the show, I just don't see a trade happening. I just don't see the value of a team really trading up with where these teams are sitting right now.
I don't really see a guy in this draft that's worth all the trade capital that you'd have to give up to get up into like the top 3 or top 4. Because it seems like there's duplicates or variants of these guys spread out throughout at least the first round. If you can't get one of the, like I say, if you can't get Evan Neal, there's like, Charles Cross, there's Equano from, there's other guys comparable to him that make fall to you if you're at 6 or 8 or whatever, instead of having to trade up 3 spots like we've seen in the past. I went ahead and put Aiden as the first pick for Jacksonville. Detroit's on the clock. A little bit of the same. They almost ran out of room. They need everything. Edge, quarterback, safety, wide receiver, linebacker, cornerback, another wide receiver, linebacker, safety, interior defensive lineman, tight end, running back, offensive tackle. Pretty much the whole team. Everything. They need something. Looking at the big board here, Trayvon Walker's still sitting there. What would you guys say is the biggest need for the Lions? I'm kind of surprised that they've got quarterback sitting there with Jared Goff, who isn't an elite quarterback, but is at least a competent one. He's been to a Super Bowl. What do you guys think about that with them saying that they need maybe a quarterback?
I mean, it doesn't shock me. I mean, again, Malik Willis has so much potential and so much upside. He needs to go to a spot where he can sit and not get thrown into the fire. And I think Detroit at number 2 might sound crazy, but it may make sense to take him at number 2 if you really feel like he's going to develop into that player. So I don't know. I still think it's way too early. They got to pick at the end of the first round too. If they want one of those quarterbacks, they can maybe take one there, maybe like Desmond Ridder, Matt Corral, Sam Howell, somebody like that. But I don't know. Zach, I mean, what do you think? Is this way too much of a risk to take Willis at 2?
Yeah, a lot of smoke with Willis at 2, possibly to Detroit, but that always felt weird.
I've been seeing it all over the place. People are trying to force Willis at 2, and I just don't see it. You got to pick at the back end of the first round. We all know this quarterback class isn't amazing, right? It's not Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, you name it. You got some good players, and there's some okay players, and you can get those guys at the end of the draft if you feel like you can develop them and sit behind Goff. But this is where I think Trayvon Walker goes. I think this is a good spot for him. You got Campbell as the head coach. Walker, just athletic, strong. You play him wherever you want to play him, whether it's outside linebacker at 5 tag DN, rush him from the wide 9. I don't care where you put him. This guy's going to succeed as long as he hits that potential, right? So he's got a lot of work to do. He's still a little raw, but the athleticism that is there. So I would take, if I'm the Lions and Trayvon Walker is sitting there, I think that's where I would go. I like Kayvon Thibodeau. I just think Walker fits a little bit better with what the Lions are doing over there. And just that, we keep mentioning that athleticism. It's nuts how much he possesses.
I coach Trayvon Walker.
Yeah.
Any objection to Trayvon Walker at 2 to Detroit?
No, I think Trayvon Walker makes sense there. I think this draft reminds me a lot of, I think, 2017, where there's not a ton of, I think, elite players at coveted positions necessarily at the very top of this draft, outside of your offensive tackles and edge, obviously. But some of the best players, I think, are at positions that are a little bit undervalued in the league. And so that's going to make it really interesting between maybe picks like 10 and 17 to 20, kind of who gets their favorite guy there at some of these maybe undervalued positions. But at the top of this draft, that's what makes it difficult for a team like Detroit. I think that they're just going to go with the player that they think the most highly of. And I think Trayvon Walker totally fits that bill. And it is a position of need for them. So it's a good spot for him to get Trayvon Walker.
Trayvon Walker. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Will, I know you said you watched a lot of Georgia this past year, but I was under the impression that the Georgia defense didn't really have like a stud like that, like a standout guy. That was more of a collective effort. Is that correct? Or did I mishear that?
It definitely was a collective effort, and kind of a common thing outside of maybe Nakobe Dean, because he was just that sideline to sideline vacuum for them. Not a ton of individual production on the stat sheet, but if you watch on a snap basis, teams were so afraid of this Georgia defense and what they could do that you saw just different versions of their offense than you would see against normal teams. A lot of quarterbacks on the move, a lot of quick passes, a lot of draws, screens, things like that to try to mitigate a lot of this pressure that Georgia could put on them, which led to some lower sack numbers, some lower tackles for losses. Quarterbacks were getting the ball out much quicker. It's a lot of incompletions, a lot of 3 and outs, but that doesn't necessarily translate to sacks or tackles for losses or things like that on the stat sheet. So I think it's hard to get some individual production in a defense like that. But that's why I'm very curious to see the production that these guys can have at the pro level, because I do think that's legitimate. And I do think they have the traits to really, not only compete, but dominate at this level. It's just, we'll see which coaches can kind of put them in positions to succeed.
Well, those classic end up in the right place type of deals here. Houston's on the clock. Same situation. They need everything. I would think, well, actually, quarterback's one of the things they don't need, apparently, according to the Draft Network. I guess they're happy with what's the dude's name?
Davis Mills.
Davis Mills. I guess they're happy with him. I would think this would be the first spot where a trade could possibly happen at 3. And I say that because I don't even think it would be for a quarterback. I think it would be for someone maybe like Sauce Gardner. I don't know. What are you hearing about Houston's pick, Zach, in terms of who they might be leaning towards? Because they could go a number of different directions here.
Man, this is always one of the harder picks that I have to make when I'm looking at these. I have a gut feeling it's going to be a corner, and that corner would be Sauce Gardner.
Awesome.
Lovie Smith, we've all heard him talk about how he wants better cornerback play. You just look, you look around the board and I know you mentioned quarterback. I don't think they're going to go quarterback. If they do, it's going to be probably day 3 of the draft. They have so many more positions that they need to fill, whether it's offensive tackle or edge rusher or wide receiver, or you name it. There's a ton of them. And cornerback is just a big need for them. They don't really have anyone that's a cornerback 1. Sauce Gardner, I know a lot of people we're going to be debating for the next few days about who's the best corner, who's going to be the first corner taken, I should say, whether it's going to be Gardner or Derek Stingley. I like Derek Stingley, always have a new, there's a little bit of, there's some issues with injuries and this, that, and the other thing, but there's no doubt about his athleticism and his ability to cover. But I think Gardner is overall the better player when you look at him in the run game. You look at him in zone coverage, man coverage, press, off. It doesn't really matter. I think he succeeds in all facets of the game. Is he a perfect prospect? Obviously not, but there's just a lot of things that he does really well, and I could justify the pick being Ahmad Gardner here. He's a really good player.
It's really crazy looking at the comparison between Ahmad Gardner and Derek Stingley Jr. coming out of high school. Stingley was a 5-star recruit. They're roughly about the same size. When I'm sitting there looking at him, about 6'1". Well, actually, Gardner's a little bit bigger, 6'3", 190, but he came in as a 3-star.
That helps him in the run game, man. The dude's a beast in the run game. I love what I see out of him.
See, I kind of like cornerbacks that can thump. So that would be a pretty good selection for Houston. Schuyler, what are you thinking? Where does Houston go here? Would you go with Sauce at this point, or is there someone else still sitting on this board that intrigues you at 3?
I mean, I think a lot of people peg an offensive tackle here, and I understand it, but I don't think that that's as big of a need as what they need defensively. And like Zach said, Lovie Smith's a defensive-minded guy. So I could see them going Thibodeau here. I could see them going Sauce. And, I mean, they can maybe go Kyle Hamilton, but that's just way too early, in my opinion, for a safety. You just can't value a safety that high in the draft, even though he may be the most talented player in the draft. So I actually kind of agree here. I know it's boring to agree, but I think it's going to be Sauce at 3 just because he needs somebody in that secondary. And, I mean, I don't want to take Kyle Hamilton at 3.
Please let Hamilton follow the Vikings at 12. I need him.
Yeah, I think that's 3 is really high for a safety. I wouldn't be comfortable until probably about the bottom of the top 10, I guess, depending on who it is. But yeah, that kind of looks like that route's going to be going that way. The Jets at 4, another one of these teams that needs everything except for quarterback. They seem pretty okay with Zach Wilson. I know that the Jets have been trying to land a big name wide receiver over the past couple of weeks. They took a swing at Tyreek Hill. There were some rumors that maybe Robbie Anderson might be wanting to go back there. There was another wide receiver. Who was it?
Deebo Samuel now.
Oh, Deebo Samuel's been linked to them now. Do you think that the Jets pull the trigger on a wide receiver here, or do you think they trade down?
I mean, I don't think they trade down, and I don't think they pull the trigger on a wide receiver. And there's 2 options here when you look at the draft that we got here. It's either Kayvon Thibodeau or it's an offensive tackle. Now, like looking at offensive tackles, Mekhi Becton, there's been a lot of talks about, is he what we thought he was coming out of college? I still think he's a solid player. We got to let these kids develop a little bit. So you can make the argument of taking a guy like Ike Ekwonu, who can kick inside if you need him to, or kick outside if Mekhi doesn't work. And then you look at Kayvon Thibodeau. These guys need an edge rusher. I think Kayvon will fit in a 4-3 or 3-4. As an outside linebacker or defensive end in a 4-3. But then, I just go back to protecting Zach Wilson, getting him some weapons. So I think if I'm the Jets, I might want to take Kayvon Thibodeau based off of his traits. And I keep talking myself into that pick. I think I would go Kayvon Thibodeau. I was going to say Icky, but I don't know, man. I can't pass on Kayvon when he's sitting there. And I know the Giants, the guys across the bay there are going to be looking at Kayvon pretty soon here. So I think I'd probably try to steal Kayvon from the Giants, from the Jets here.
Will, where do you think here for the New York Football Jets?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would lean more strongly towards wide receiver if they did not have that pick number 10 right there. And I think 4 is early for wide receiver. The only question is, and I say this because the Falcons, it seems like a lot of the noise coming out is that they're eyeing receiver. How does that make a team like, the Jets feel? How does that make some of these wide receiver teams kind of right behind Atlanta? Do they then feel the need to maybe go early, bite the bullet, and take a receiver at 4, knowing that they can maybe get an offensive tackle if a run goes on receivers right there? How does that math work in for New York? I get what Zach's saying about the defense, and I get kind of hurting the crosstown team there, but I still just think offensive tackle is what they should do, and it's kind of popular now to look at the Bengals and say, well, everybody said that they needed to take somebody to protect Joe Burrow, and they didn't, and they took Jamar Chase, who I thought was one of my favorite prospects coming out last year, far and away. And we saw that they kind of said, screw pass protection. Let's just go get more weapons than anybody else can handle.
Burrow almost died. I mean,
he
literally tried to kill the dude this year because it was like a turnstile. Everyone is just shocked that the Bengals were even able to make it to the Super Bowl with Burrow attacked. I don't think you can. I think it would be very foolish of the Bengals to go.
There's not a Jamar Chase in this draft either.
Yeah,
so I don't think that I don't think the Jets should go with somebody, because that's better value at 10. I think they can get a receiver that they're going to be good with at 10. So for me, 4, it's going to be one of these offensive tackles. Personally, I like Evan Neal a little bit more. But if they like Ike Ekwonu, then I think they can't go wrong with either of those guys. But that's what I would bet is help Zach Wilson and kind of build up your trenches there.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning offensive line also.
Yeah, if I'm going to pick between Evan Neal and Icky, I just think the scheme fit currently and who they got for personnel, I think Ekwonu is the pick. Evan Neal, I think, is the better player. I got Evan Neal as my tackle one. But I just think when you're looking at what they got, I think Ekwonu fits better with what they got going on.
I agree with what Will was saying with the wide receiver situation, because you're looking at Atlanta probably taking a receiver if Garrett Wilson's there. And if the Jets fall in love with Garrett Wilson, maybe they do take him at 4. I've seen a lot of talk that could happen, but I don't know if he's worth the number 4 pick. I think it's okay to take somebody like, Thibodeau or one of these 2 offensive tackles and then get another receiver at 10. I mean, there's still going to be really good receivers on the board, like Jameson Williams, who might be the most explosive player in the draft at that position when healthy. So I don't think Jameson Williams is going before 10. And if he's there, take him. I mean, yeah, he's got to come back from the injury, but still. So I don't know. I guess I'm kind of the tiebreaker here, aren't I?
Kind of. I mean, I really feel like either Evan Neal or Ekwonu is going to go right here. And it's just really a matter of picking which one.
I think they're going to go with Thibodeau here. I feel like if Charles Cross does slip to 10, they can maybe take him. But if you look at like Zach said, I still think Mekhi Becton could be a really good tackle. And I think who's their right tackle? Is it George Fant? I think that he's decent enough to be able to stay at right tackle. And I think they need a difference maker on that edge. So I got to go Thibodeau here.
So we need to decide here, Thibodeau or a left tackle for the Jets. Now, I was leaning towards left tackle, just thinking they needed someone to grow with Zach Wilson for the next 10 years. And with them having that 10th pick, they can get, if they could get out of the first round with Evan Neal and
Jameson Johnson slips to 10.
Yeah. Or they could do that. I mean, with that, they don't have to really move around or do anything.
I'm hearing Jermaine's going 5 potentially.
That's I can see that.
Come up on with the Giant. I can see that too. Because we are gonna have a surprise, somebody that flies up this board that we didn't expect to be picked as high as they are.
Let's go with one of the tackles here.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards one of these tackles, and for some reason, I'm leaning towards Ekwonu with the Jets. I don't know why. Am I being foolish here, or
I think
is there much separation between Neal and Ekwonu?
I think probably just scheme.
Not a lot of separation. It's the fact that Evan Neal, he's a left tackle from day one. Ekwonu, I think, is more of a guy you could kick inside and then potentially bring him outside later on in his career after you get a little bit more development. I think Ekwonu is a great player. I just think with what you got at your bookends for the Jets right now, kick Ekwonu inside, see what you got in Becton for another year or two, then you kick him back outside.
See, but do you take Ekwonu that high if you're just going to kick him inside?
He's a good player. He's a good player, yeah.
Are we going to Ekwonu at 4 to the Jets?
Even if you want to keep him outside to start his career, you got the position versatility. I mean, he's played all around the offensive line, so there's no concern about where you want to plug him in there.
Now at 5, so we put Ekwonu at the Jets. At 5 is the New York Football Giants. They've got picks 5 and 7. Just before we even try to pick this, are we going to go through this and not do any trades for the first 10? Because we have the option here on the Draft Network. I'm not exactly sure how it works if I hit that trade button, but
I think you have to have the subscription to do the trade.
Okay. So no trades then. So
yeah, we're going straight with it.
No trades today. It's all just straight trade.
Anyways, I like you said earlier, I don't know if anybody's going to want to move up to the top 10 because you look at offensive tackle, you look at edge, there's a lot of this is a deep class at offensive tackle and edge. So,
yeah,
I mean, no one's going to move up for a linebacker. No one's going to move up for any of these quarterbacks, I don't think, in the top 10. So
we haven't had one off the board yet. We're on pick 5 already. And I would imagine New York's not going to pick a quarterback, although that would be interesting if they did. Sounds like they're going to try to run this one more time with Daniel Jones. Again, picking this high in the draft, they basically need everything, although I would imagine they're going to be leaning towards an edge rusher at this point. Just knowing the Giants and their history, I would think this would be where Thibodeau maybe lands in New York.
Yeah, I said Jermaine Johnson, top 5, which is what I've heard. But if Kayvon Thibodeau's there, and if they pass on him and take Jermaine, I think Jermaine's a really good player. I like him a lot. A lot of length, fits that scheme really well. But Kayvon Thibodeau, come on, man. What are we doing here? You can't be passing on a guy like that.
Yeah. Edge from Oregon, 6'4", 254. And then, of course, Jermaine he's a little He's a little taller, 6'5", 254, same weight. So he's kind of lankier, I guess you could say, than Thibodeau. Thibodeau's more solid.
My only argument is that with Carolina at 6, you probably know that one of those tackles could come off the board. And I don't know if they want to pass that up, knowing that one of those edge rushers is still going to be there. So if they take
that's a good point.
Evan Neal here, and if they don't take Evan Neal, Carolina could take Neal, and then now they're kind of screwed on the tackles. So I think they could go Evan Neal here, and then, I mean, knowing that probably Thibodeau and Jermaine Johnson may still be at 7 because
that's actually a great point.
That's a fantastic point. Yeah.
So if that's the case, then it's a matter
I'd go
of
Neal. That's what I was going to say as well.
So
here we go.
Here we are. Pick 6. And the scenario that me and Schuyler have been dreading probably for the past month is here upon us, because you've got a variety of things still sitting here. Hell, they're cornerback you right now. I would be surprised if they take Stingley just to do it, to screw with Panthers fans. Derek Stingley Jr. I mean, nah. Thibodeau's still on the board. You've got Brian Burns going into a contract year, if I'm not mistaken, Schuyler. Is that right?
They picked up his 5th-year option.
They did. Okay.
That does help. But again, you got to find somebody to replace Hassan Reddick. And I know everyone's talking about this. This could be the same situation as last year. Everyone's saying quarterback off his tackle. They might go edge and try and replace Hassan Reddick. I mean, I don't see it happening, but
because here's the case for that. Because if they do that, then that means the plan has to be, okay, we're okay with Brady Christensen at left tackle, right? And we're okay, or either we're not okay with Sam Darnold at quarterback. We do have a 5th-round pick we can ship to Cleveland and bring over Baker Mayfield, and we got a healthy Christian McCaffrey. The line's gonna be okay, but we continue to strengthen the strength of this team, which is the young defense. That would be the argument for Thibodeau if he fell to 6. The 2 tackles that we liked the most for Carolina got picked the 2 picks before them, which is similar to last year, where it kind of felt like if you watch that Panther Confidential video after the draft that had Matt Rule and David Tepper and Scott Fitterer, and they were discussing it. It was really cool. They're discussing it as they're kind of doing it. It felt like, correct me if I'm wrong, Schuyler, it felt like Penei Sewell was the number 1 pick on their board.
Yeah.
And he got picked right before they did. And that's what caused them to go to JC Horn just off of best player available. If they're going to do best player available and not listen to, oh, you need this, you need that, who's the best player available? Is it Thibodeau?
Definitely. I mean, it would 100% be Thibodeau, but I know Malik
we just spent 2 months.
I know Malik Willis is on the board here, but
we just spent 2 months ignoring everyone but the left tackles and the quarterback. And it feels like, just doing it one time on a mock and looking at this, it feels like they would just go get the best player available at 6, regardless if it helps them or not.
They could, but I think they really want to fix that offensive line. And Charles Cross sitting there, like, I get the attractiveness to Malik Willis, but I think that they'll wait to address the quarterback position if Charles Cross is still there. Now, if they go on a run of Aquanu, Neal, and Cross all off the board, then that's when things could get really chaotic. But I would go Charles Cross here.
Matt Rule, I think, needs to do something big to help save this job. He's going to think he's got something in Kenny Pickett because he loved what he saw coming out of high school. Had a really good year. I got a gut feeling, man, right down here. It's going to be Kenny Pickett.
They've got Kenny Pickett as the 21st ranked prospect here.
We got him at 6 or 4. We got him at 14 is where we have him on our big board.
I just don't feel comfortable picking Pickett at 6. Like, it just feels dirty, to be honest. Like, it just don't feel.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, Zach. What are the odds here that Carolina, if the board kind of falls like this, and you've got some guys to like at kind of each position, but maybe not, a guy that you would fall in love with at any one of these positions because the tackles have gone, a couple of the edges have gone. I mean, is there a team like Philly who could really want that top, like they love one of these wide receivers and only one and want to come up? I mean, what would the trade down scenario look like for Carolina here?
I see it being a team that needs either a tackle or an edge rusher.
New Orleans?
Yeah. So New Orleans potentially for an offensive tackle, but I just think that's too much of a jump. I just don't think they have enough to get up there.
Yeah.
And then I look at, just looking at, 3 picks later, you look at a team like Seattle. They need an offensive tackle so bad.
This wouldn't happen in the division, but like Atlanta would make a lot of sense if they wanted Thibodeau and they wanted to get him before New York. That would make sense, but I don't think you're trading that pick within the division if you're Carolina.
I look at all those teams right there. The only one I can come up with is Seattle potentially moving up for an offensive tackle if they really like Charles Cross.
And that he's really the only one left is Charles Cross.
Trevor Penning is another guy.
Trevor Penning, yeah. And they've got him 18.
That's he's going higher.
Yeah, he's gonna go up higher than that. We've been talking ourselves into Malik Willis at 6 for the past month or so, and
Kenny Pickett.
It would be the most Matt Rule thing, and Zach is right. Like it'd be the most Matt Rule thing to go Kenny Pickett, because the familiarity with him, like it's not the sexy pick that the fans want in Malik Willis, but he's going to do. You're going to see on draft night whoever that pick is, who's really calling the shots. If it's Kenny Pickett, Matt Rule has a big say in that because he's trying to save his damn job. Now, if it's Malik Willis, then Scott Fitter's like, all right, we're going to take the long road approach, and I don't really care about his job security.
Right. And then also I think that's who Ben McAdoo would want too, is Malik Willis out of the quarterbacks. Plus you got to think, this is bad to say, but you got to think in the back of your head, I'm wondering if Ben McAdoo's thinking, they fire Coach Rule at the end of this year or halfway through it or whatever. Do I become the interim head coach with a chance to kind of show what I can do? And since this is a guy I was riding behind before, and Willis or whatever, do they kind of attach me to Willis and we kind of go from there? Or does that not matter and Tepper clears the whole thing out if he fires Rule? I don't know. Plus, we keep saying this, that Rule's on the hot seat. We've gotten zero indication from owner David Tepper that Matt Rule is on any kind of hot seat whatsoever. I feel like I have to keep saying this over and over again because the media feels like he should be on a hot seat. The fans feel like he should be on a hot seat. But we haven't heard anything from the Panthers upper management suggesting that, this is it. You better figure this out this year or you're out of here. Like, I mean, he gave him a 7-year contract for a reason. So maybe he's letting him do most of this contract and he understands it's going to take time. I just keep hearing things like, oh, your owner's impatient and all this other stuff. And I'm like, how is he impatient? He gave a college coach a 7-year deal to come in here and said that he understood it took time. And like it feels like everyone's just kind of putting their own filter on what they think David Tepper is, what they think Matt Rule, his situation is. So Matt Rule's going into this situation basically assured, backstage that his job is not in question this year. Then I think he goes after who he really wants the most. And I don't think it's defense this year. I think you're right. I think it's either got to be an offensive tackle or it's got to be a quarterback. And I think they would rather have Neal. But if Neal's going to go to the Giants at 5, I think they swing on Malik Willis. I feel like they're going to swing for him because I think if they don't, though there won't be another quarterback they can go after because they don't have a 2nd or 3rd round pick at the moment. And to your point, Schuyler, from previous episodes, the Panthers had 11 draft picks last year. Like they don't necessarily need to add additional draft picks for anything. I mean, they had a bunch last year. So I'm leaning, I think we all gave 4 different answers for who the Panthers should take here. I'm leaning towards Willis. Let's run back down this again. Zach, who do you think Carolina should go to or should pick real quick?
Realistically, in my mind, in my gut, it's got to be Pickett for me.
Oh, that's right. You were on Pickett. And Will?
If we're going quarterback, I think Willis.
Schuyler?
And I said Cross, so I'm the outlier.
Yeah.
So I'll add to this real quick. So we talked about the Lions picking Malik Willis and having him sit behind Jared Goff. How do you feel about the Panthers picking Willis and sitting behind Darnold and
Actually, Schuyler brought this up last week, and I never thought of the scenario, but I think what they could do is draft Willis and then still go get Baker Mayfield from Cleveland with a 5th. And then that way, especially if you can convince Cleveland to take back Darnold or whatever, or you can convince Cleveland to eat some of Baker's salary coming in, I don't mind having 2 quarterbacks or 3 in the room. One's on a rookie deal on Malik Willis. Between Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, if you can pay $30 million total between the 2 or something like that, considering quarterbacks out here getting $50 million guaranteed right now, I'd be okay with that for 1 season.
Is that the best learning environment though for Malik Willis? You're gonna have 2 quarterbacks who are out here trying to fight for their careers, and they don't give.
One's got to go. Well, you can't have Darnold and Mayfield in there. Like it's got to be Mayfield's got to be there on a prove it 1 year type deal where he can prove to the league that he can actually be, the quarterback that everyone thought he was going to be when he got drafted. And you have Willis kind of waiting. One of my buddies, Larry Frank, said this over the weekend on my radio show. He's like, most of the great quarterbacks, they had to sit a year. Like there's this notion that you can get out there and start early and that kind of thing. And that does happen. But, most of them sat a year. Pat Mahomes sat a year. You just go through the list of guys. I think Josh Allen played rookie year. But most of them had to sit and learn. Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre for a year before they turned the season over. Yeah, so Tom Brady sat behind Drew Bledsoe. So, I mean, I'm okay with Willis if they draft Willis and then get a guy that can get like a bridge guy. I think the Cam Newton ship has sailed. I don't think he's going to be back in Charlotte ever. I don't even know if he's going to play NFL football again, to be honest. And that would have been okay to have Cam and Malik because they know each other, went to the same high school, both went to Auburn before Malik transferred to Liberty. That would make sense for him to be the mentor. But I don't think Matt Rule wants Cam Newton here. I didn't think he wanted him here when they brought him back. The way he treated him in terms of playing time made it feel like he never really wanted him back on this roster to begin with. So he's not going to be there. I say all this, and more than likely the Panthers are going to draft Charles Cross and just be done with it. Actually, you know what? Now that I'm sitting there looking at it, I think they take Thibodeau. If Thibodeau falls to them, I think so. If Thibodeau falls to them at 6, and Scott Fitter is truthful when he says that they want the best player available, I think they take Thibodeau and really ride off of that defense is our backbone type thing.
Man, that would tick a lot of people off.
It really would. It really would. And that's why I'm sitting there like, ugh. But I mean,
he's a great player, but like,
there's a drop off after Thibodeau. Stingley doesn't make sense because we have a full cornerback room already. Wilson doesn't make sense for them because they've got wide receivers already. They've got Cross at 9. I would think that they would want Evan Neal is the first pick they want on this board. If New York picks Evan Neal, it screws up everything else, and all bets are off at that point. So I think if Neal is gone and they don't trade down, I think they would get Thibodeau in this scenario. Yeah, any thoughts on that from the gallery?
I still think it's quarterback. They have hammered defense year after year in the draft under Matt Rule, and it's not working out. Well, then I would say honestly, like if the Baker Mayfield thing is in the cards, which that remains to be seen, then I'm honestly in favor of you avoid quarterback in this entire draft, because again, it just doesn't make sense to me to have Baker be the mentor, or you're not going to go after a reclamation project and then kind of say, also, by the way, while you're out here trying to prove yourself, you now also have to kind of hold the rookie's hand and show him the ropes. That just doesn't usually, vibe well inside of NFL locker rooms. You need the clear guy. And the moment that you draft somebody with number 6 and then trade for somebody who is, has led teams to the playoffs, is on every commercial seemingly on NFL Sundays. Like I think it works better if you have a clear veteran presence in place. The guys that you all mentioned, Drew Bledsoe, Alex Smith, these are established veteran quarterbacks who kind of also know that the writing's on the wall for them. I get taking a quarterback, and that's honestly still the way I think Carolina goes. But if they're going to do it, I think then it's, more quickly handing over the reins to this rookie, probably halfway through year 1. But outside of that, I mean, I think offensive tackle is where I would go. Edge just is difficult for me, given you've got Brian Burns. He is a great edge rusher. Like you're not deficient necessarily on your defensive line. No. And it seems almost like reinvesting to make sure that you don't lose a luxury, as opposed to truly bettering a part of your roster that you need to. And the offensive side needs to get better for Carolina.
Yeah. Okay. I just realized the time on this. I wanted to get through at least the top 10 so we could get to Atlanta.
Real quick. I just want to add, since we're on the Panthers, we talked about trading. I just got a text from one of my guys that said the Cowboys could be interested in trading up for Thibodeau if he starts to fall. So Dallas trade maybe.
And
DQ, come get your guy.
Where's Dallas?
Yeah,
but then I would be more content getting Kenny Pickett in the 20s than I would at 6. or Malik Willis.
That's why a trade down makes sense, I think, for Carolina if they are targeting a quarterback.
All right, so we're going to motor through the last 5 picks here, but me and Schuyler, since we're the host of Bleav in Panthers, we'll just be the deciding Panther pick here. What do you want to do, Schuyler? Because I feel like this is what's going to happen in the draft room for the Panthers. Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do?
I see Thibodeau could be very easy to take, but I still feel like they want to get tackles. So I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I would say Cross.
We'll go with Cross. So
now Thibodeau would get here at 7, I would think.
Thibodeau 7 to the Giants. Now this is with no trade, so it could get interesting. If Thibodeau's still sitting there at 6, 7, 8, yeah, I could see the Cowboys maybe putting something together and moving up for him. But are we all in agreement? Thibodeau probably goes here to the Giants.
Yeah, I'd go Thibodeau here.
And we get
for the Giants though, Neal and Thibodeau,
right? Yeah, that's pretty damn good. Falcons kind of need a little everything.
What are you thinking, Will?
It's common theme, right? No, I want to hear what you guys. I want to hear you guys first.
Okay, so personally, I think that if Matt Ryan was still there, I think they would have got him a wide receiver, and I think they would have went the Alabama route and got Jameson Williams because that's what they've done the previous couple of times.
Worked out so far.
Yeah, it's worked out fantastic. Having said that, you kind of need a little bit of everything.
This is where I don't let Jermaine Johnson slide past because I think it's just an amazing scheme fit for him. And plus, Jermaine Johnson's from a town just down the road of me. I love the guy. He's, gotta show some love for the hometown Minnesota over here. So I like Jermaine Johnson, ton of length. I think he's got like 81-inch wingspan. You can rush as an outside linebacker from a wide 9. I love what he can do there. Drop back in coverage. I think that's a perfect pick for the Falcons.
I kind of like Johnson there also for Atlanta.
Schuyler, what do you think?
Yeah, I love Johnson. I don't think there's any way you pass up on him. I like Garrett Wilson. I like some of these other guys, but it's got to be Jermaine Johnson for me.
All right, so I think for wide receiver, I'll touch on that because Schuyler, you mentioned Garrett Wilson a couple of times. I think if they're gonna go wide receiver, it's gonna be Drake London, just because of a lot of comments that Arthur Smith made kind of as the season went along. They said they wanted to get more physical, kind of on the exterior of their offense. They wanted to be able to, utilize the edges a little bit more, and they needed, bigger bodies, better blockers to kind of seal off the edge and create these lanes. So if they're going to go wide receiver for that reason, I kind of think Drake London makes a lot of sense there. But I get everything you're saying with Jermaine Johnson, and I'm totally fine if that's the pick because I think Jermaine Johnson is a really, really intriguing, in almost, in some senses, kind of like a classic throwback edge rusher, and the Falcons can use that, and he certainly is brings a lot in the run game as well. Given kind of some of the situation around Grady Jarrett's future, though, and Dean Pease's history, historically as an AFC coach, but he real familiar with 3-4 fronts and kind of wanted to do a multiple look in Atlanta last year. The defense was definitely a work in progress because Dan Quinn obviously comes from that cover 3 Seattle scheme, front 4, your linebackers super athletic. And they were slowly trying to introduce multiple fronts there, but didn't necessarily have the personnel to do it. There's one guy in this draft that I think totally speeds up that timeline of getting everything changed into the identity that Dean Pease, I think, ultimately wants to run, and that is Jordan Davis. I get 8 is kind of high to take somebody of that caliber, but we have seen historically 3-4 defenses with these massive nose tackles that can just eat up space, pretty much shut down your interior run game and free up a lot of the other 10 guys on that defense to run around and make plays. That's kind of how Jordan Davis was used at Georgia, which is why his production is down a little bit, but he was consistently eating up double teams, holding his ground, and just letting guys behind him like Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean run around and make plays. I'm not saying that means that the Falcons should go 8 or go Davis at 8. I'm just saying that if they do envision a future without Grady Jarrett at some point, Davis, even though he might be considered a reach, makes a lot of sense because he immediately kind of resets how you can build your defense. And I don't think you lose a lot on the interior of your defensive line, switching from a Pro Bowler in Grady Jarrett to, even a rookie in Jordan Davis. That being said, the Falcons 18 sacks in 17 games. I mean, I think the third worst team had like 30 sacks. That is insane to me. You're not going to go wrong with Jermaine Johnson here. I just wanted to make the case for Jordan Davis.
And it was a pretty good case, too, because I was about to say, hey, you should probably take Jordan Davis, but then right there at the very end, that you drop that
when
stat in the room
when
and
did
ran
the
out.
Panthers take Derek Brown?
7, I think.
7. Okay, they said that was too early
something like
for a defensive tackle, too. So I can see Jordan Davis is a phenomenal player, so I can see it.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite in this draft.
Last two, we're only going to go through the top 10 here because we're already getting close to an hour. You got Seattle on the clock at 9. Of course, we're not doing any trades or anything because I think Seattle would trade down, but because they got a lot of holes. But from what we got looking at here on the board, I think Derek Stingley Jr. actually would be a good fit for Seattle.
God, get this team a left tackle, please.
There aren't any left except for Pennington, right?
I know. I wouldn't mind taking Pennington. I know, like, it's probably a little early, but man, my mom lives out in Seattle. We watch the Seahawks all the time too, and I'm just like, God, get this team a left tackle for once.
Look, if I'm Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks pick a left tackle in the first round, the very moment that I'm gone from this franchise and I've absorbed like 8,000 hits from defenders since 2011, like by far the most in the NFL, I'm throwing things at the TV. Like I'm apologizing to Sierra and I'm throwing stuff at the TV. Like I can't believe that what are they doing? Why are they doing this? I think they would go cornerback here. I think Derek Stingley Jr. would be a perfect fit for Seattle. Maybe try to start rebuilding the Legion of Boom, maybe, or something to that effect. You're also getting towards a point where Kyle Hamilton might be in play at 9. Like that don't sound that bad to me. I don't think they're going to go wide receiver right here. They need way more than picking a wide receiver when you don't even know who your franchise quarterback's really going to be going forward. I don't think it's Drew Lock. So actually, I think you kind of got to pick between Stingley and Hamilton, and I'm kind of leaning towards Hamilton, to be honest.
I think Seattle really hopes that Jermaine Johnson or Charles Cross falls to them at 9. And if it doesn't, then I think they could go Derek Stingley. But you know what? I want to be a little off the board here. I think this could be where Malik Willis goes. And I don't think it's that much of a reach.
You know what? And it's funny, too, because we just went through almost this entire top 10 and not a single quarterback has been selected yet. If Willis is still sitting there, I think you're absolutely right. I think they would go after Willis right there and not have any qualms about it whatsoever.
I can see it as well. There's other needs that they need to fill, but I can see it.
Yep. And to me, that's why they haven't really gone after a Baker Mayfield or any of these other guys yet. It feels like Baker's on hold till after round 1, and then whoever didn't get one of these quarterbacks will come to Baker and be like, hey, let's do this. Cleveland, we'll give you a 6, and you got to eat like half his salary, and we'll take him off your hands, which would still be better than them cutting him because then they're still having to pay him that money. It still counts against the cap.
Well, no, they'll probably make the pick and then make the trade 5 minutes after just to make my life hell. But
yep, that's exactly what's going to happen. And then finally, the Jets back up again at pick 10. And who do we give the Jets? We gave the Jets Ikem Ekwonu at 4.
Hamilton.
You got those. You got wide receivers up here. I mean, wow.
Did they re-sign Marcus May?
No, he's in New Orleans.
No. Yeah.
Where's he at?
New Orleans.
That's right. I was going to say.
If I was the Jets, I'd want Jameson Williams right here, but I just don't know if he's going to be the same player. ACLs and wide receivers, man, are just hard to.
Drake London, maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking Drake London actually is the player that I would probably pair with Wilson here.
You got to get Wilson a toy. Yeah, so I think Stingley's going to end up falling a little bit here. He ain't going to fall very far. You got Washington, the Vikings, the Texans, and the Ravens at 14, so he won't get past Baltimore at 14, I don't think. But
I definitely think Stingley, Hamilton, or London are in play here for me. Hamilton though could definitely be a pick here.
I think if it were me, I'd say Stingley.
Ooh, so we're kind of debating between Stingley and Hamilton, really. Who do they have at cornerback?
No one.
Nobody.
And we know don't have anybody at safety. They traded off Jamal Adams.
Really... Bryce Hall plays a lot of slot, though, doesn't he?
He's always hurt, too, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good player in college.
I think I kind of agree. It's got to be someone in the secondary. It's either Stingley or Hamilton. I think Garrett Wilson can make sense for Drake London, but it's got to be Stingley or Hamilton.
Yeah, I agree. I'm leaning Hamilton.
Especially when you lose Marcus May, I think you need somebody that can be that guy over the top. And Hamilton, he kind of reminds me, honestly, a lot of Jeremy Chin and how he can be very versatile. They can play inside the box.
That's all I need to hear.
And I mean,
I guys too coming in just to say, man, I love that guy as a prospect.
Jeremy Chin.
He can
Antoine Winfield Jr. and Jeremy Chin were my 2 favorite safeties in that class.
If this guy can be anything like that for the Jets, and that's almost like getting 2 draft picks. So we'll go there and we'll stop there. So just to recap here, our picks. for the first 10. Aiden Hutchinson going to Jacksonville at 1. Trayvon Walker going 2 to Detroit. Sauce Gardner going 3 to Houston. Ike Mekwonu going to the Jets at 4. Evan Neal going to Alabama, or excuse me, to the Giants at 5. Panthers, Charles Cross at 6. That is not a sexy pick, Schuyler, at all. Like I feel like that's going to be very disappointing if that's what happens.
Go watch the tape. I promise you, this guy is probably the best pass protector in this class. And not only that, he's got a mean streak to him.
Okay, well, they definitely need that. Kayvon Thibodeau going to the Giants at 7. Jermaine Johnson to the Falcons at 8. Malik Willis, first quarterback off the board at 9, going to Seattle. And then we got Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame, going to the Jets at 10. So that's our mock. We'll see how close we are to this. This is on the internet, so it's almost like it's written in ink. So we'll be able to go back. Draft starts Thursday night or Friday night?
Thursday.
I thought it started on a Thursday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we'll have the draft taking place. And my show, The Rundown with Desmond Johnson, is Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. across most of these outlets that you're watching this on. So we'll have first and second and third round picks in by the time we get on Saturday morning. So we'll talk about that and much, much more. But you've been listening to or watching a Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast episode, our Bleav in Carolina Panthers mock draft. I want to give a thanks to Zach and to Will for stopping by. For Schuyler Callihan, I'm Desmond Johnson. We will see you next week. Keep pounding. And Panthers, please don't screw this up. Please, just don't screw it up. I say this and I know they're going to, so just bye.